Hi there, I am Deon. Welcome to where I unpack what it means to be a writer in the age of AI. In this episode, I have a chat with internationally renowned novelist and screenwriter Deon Meyer. His novels, many of which he has also adapted for television and screen, have been translated into 28 languages and have received awards in South Africa, Sweden, France, and Germany. It's a real privilege to have Deon on the show. Welcome to Digital Quill Writer, and thank you so much for accepting this invitation. It's really an honor and a privilege to have you with us.
It's my honor to be on the show. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks for coming. And I must tell you, I must confess something to you straight away. When I phoned you to ask you to be on the show, I was wondering, now, what will he say? Will he say yes, or will he say, bugger you, AI, piss off? I wasn't sure what your reaction would be. I was so relieved when you said, yeah, I'll chat about that. So really welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. I want to start off by asking you, because you accepted to talk about this, in my show, I've established this spectrum with two extremes on either side. And let me do a little a screen share here, and I'll just show it to you what I'm talking about. Just to give you an idea, can you see that there? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if we're in the way there. Let me just move that on. So you can see the purist on the one side, zero AI, AI evil, never, ever, ever, and substitutionists on hand it over, get an agentic AI to, in fact, deliver a novel every Sunday and post it on, KDP and send me the royalties kind of thing, right? And then in between this very wide spectrum, starting towards the purist side, really with, say, light, we'll talk about this, with light editing or some feedback on what you've already generated, almost like a really a spell checker or Grammarly on steroids kind of thing, checking your style and your writing or your consistency in plot line or character development, going through towards brainstorming story, moving further along towards asking you to rewrite maybe a passage you've described. And so some of its writing is enmeshed with you. You can see there's a movement towards greater and greater fusion of collaboration between becoming a co-writer, as it were, all the way until you finally are, a substitutionist. So with that said, can I ask you, where would you position yourself on that spectrum and why?
I think very much at this stage to the far left, to the red zone of zero AI. I'm an agnostic at the moment. The little bit of AI that I've tried out of curiosity, and also a little bit out of practicalities, stuff that I needed help with, AI failed me miserably.
Really?
So that's the one hand. In preparation for this talk, I gave a lot of thought of how much technology has influenced me as an author. And the answer is an incredible amount. When I started working as a newspaper reporter, we used to type on old typewriters, so much so that even today I still bash my keyboard of my laptop in the way that we bash the
Royal typewriter or whatever, yeah.
Marianne, my wife, says she can actually hear from the kitchen when the writing's going well, because there's a noise coming. And I use an old mechanical keyboard. I can't use these new fangled small ones because that's what I'm used to. But having said that, word processing and writing on a piece I write on Apple has changed my life, because I type fast. I've got fairly big fat fingers, so I make a lot of typos. And the fact that I can change that within a word processing program is fantastic for me. The coming of the internet and how that enabled me to access material for research in a quite an easy way, to get hold of rare books with information on the research that I'm doing. That has changed a lot. The interaction with readers, in the old days, you wrote a book and it went out there. Maybe you saw 100 people during book launch. These days, you have this connection with readers, which is wonderful on the one hand and terrifying on the other hand. Yeah. But so technology has changed the way that I work, the way that I live as a writer dramatically. So when AI came, I was open to it, if you'll pardon the pun. Let's see what this can do. Let's see
Yeah.
where this can. With ChatGPT 1, and you have to help me with the technology because I've sort of lost interest after the first few tries. I gave it a shot, and on the one hand, I was quite impressed with how much it knew about, for instance, my characters Benny Grissel and Von Cupido. And you're amazed by the accumulation of information that it does. And then when I actually asked it to do to give me some answers in terms of creative ideas, the creative ideas were really, really miserable. I mean, they sucked. And I thought, no, well, I have nothing to fear so far from AI, but I'm sure it'll get better. And I'm sure it has since, and this was about a year or so ago that
Oh,
I
yeah.
did.
Oh, no, there's been radical changes since then. Yeah.
Yeah. The other interesting thing that I tried, I did a musical, the libretto of a musical with Coenie de Villiers. Coenie and I have been collaborating for some time. We did a show called Karoo Suite that was stories and music about the Karoo. And then a year ago, more just about a year and a half ago, he said, let's do a musical. I was very keen. I love musicals as
Genre. Yeah.
a genre. So, and I had a story idea, and I had to write the libretto and the lyrics. And the one thing that would make my life a lot easier is, for instance, when I write the lyrics, to find words that rhyme with other
Yeah.
words in Afrikaans.
Yeah.
And so I went on to OpenAI again and ChatGPT, and I said, okay, this is what I need help with. And I asked what words would rhyme with this. And the results, again, were extremely disappointing. It was useless. It was absolutely not usable. Again, I read something last week that says that it's, especially in that sphere, it is getting better. But I sort of lost interest with that. There's another part of this that we can discuss later that I think ChatGPT will never be able to do. But so far, I've had very little luck in terms of help. What I haven't tried, and there's a reason for that. What I haven't tried is to ask AI to help me with specific research. For instance, the book that I'm writing now, I need a crime that looks like suicide but is murder. So to be able to ask AI, give me examples of crimes where it smacks of suicide, but it is actually concealed murder. I haven't tried that yet. I'm about to do that in the next few days. But then you always wonder, what is the server going to think of the guy asking this question, you know?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
so there is that little hesitation. But that's the sort of thing that I'll probably try next. But again, for me, one of the great pleasures of writing is doing the research myself and going to find the answers, going to speak to real people. For instance, real detectives who have worked on cases where something looked like suicide and it was actually murder. So my one worry is that AI will take away those pleasures of, I mean, you know, as a writer that it's a fairly lonely job. And one of the perks is that you can get out there, go talk to very smart people with lots of interesting experience, and do research one-on-one. So I'm not that keen for AI to do it for me, but maybe to test some ideas that I have. But that's more or less my experience with AI so far. That's why I'm still very much agnostic. But as I said, I'm in love. I've always been in love with technology. I was an early adopter with the internet. I was an early adopter with word processing back when we still worked on workstations connected on a mainframe when I was at the University of the Free State. So I'm very keen to see how this can make my life easier, but so far I haven't really found the way.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. That's a fascinating answer. And I suspect a lot of people find themselves in that place, in that position. What I found, just from my side, is first of all, I use Claude, Anthropic's Claude, which is a very powerful AI and very good with writing and creative writing. But it's about how you use it. And so the real skill, because they have obviously advanced enormously since a year ago. I mean, at the moment in AI, a week or two is a year. Certainly a month is a year. But so things have really changed radically. I might make a segue just so that you know, Google have just released their Gemini 2.0, and if you get Google Gemini Advanced, they've got one of the AIs you can choose in the platform to work with is the deep research. And then what it does, it's like agentic, I don't even know what agentic AI is, but when the AI actually creates agents that all go off and do other jobs and then bring their results back, and it gets collated and orchestrated and judged. And finally, when it's all done, the results are presented to you. Okay. So you can, for instance, I just did one now, where you say to it, it's called deep research. And what it does is you ask it what you want to know, and you want to report on that. And it's serious research stuff. So in other words, it gives citations, everything. Yeah. And off it goes. And mine took 5 minutes to compile. So off it goes, and it searches through 70 or 80 or 90 or whatever websites and sources and everywhere else. And finally, and you can tell it, include areas like this, and this, and ask these and these questions as well in your report, among anything else you might think is pertinent. And off it goes, and it does it. And then after a while, it comes back and gives you the report in extreme detail with all the citations and everything else. So that's something worth looking at for research, because it at least sets you on a direction. Because, of course, with the citations, you can go and click on each of those sources and go and read it yourself and go and see what you think of it. But it gives you that. So it's kind of like Perplexity, which is also a search engine that does good searches like that, but on steroids. In terms of that. So that's very powerful stuff. When it comes to what's happened with AI since a year ago is they developed custom GPTs, right? Where you can shape the AI, right, with your own like little version of it, as it were, to try and explain it now to someone who's never used one. It allows you to upload documents into what's called the knowledge base of your little GPT, right? And so then it will always reference that information, all right? And when answering you. So in other words, it's all about shaping, and then you can give it system instructions telling it how to behave when you're working in this GPT, what you expect of it. And then it will do that. Okay, so you've now turned it into your assistant to work like you. So I, for instance, for my writing, have one where I have, when I develop a new story, I'm trying to develop a new storyline, right? The plot and characters and everything else. Into that GPT, I have uploaded an entire book I wrote on the methodology of writing, on how I write, how I develop Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, beginning, middles, ends, how I like to work with reversals, how I like to work with, how I develop recognition, reversal moments, how the moment of insight, oh my God, good God, etc., the planting, the foreshadowing, everything. All that technique is in this book. I've uploaded that into the knowledge base of that Claude project, it's called. Right? And then all the content of my story as I'm developing it is connected to Google Drive, because I've got all those docs in Google Drive and it can speak to Google Drive. So every time it opens, it updates anything I've changed in my Google Drive docs in there. Now, the AI knows as much as I know about the story, and it knows how I write. So when I work on any part of the story, it'll say to me, it looks like you're trying to develop a reversal. Am I right? It starts asking that. Wow. Now when it suggests very pertinent stuff with reference to my entire content. Do you understand what's going on here now? This is no longer just give me an idea about.
Yeah. Just one question. Are you doing that in English or in Afrikaans?
I'm doing that in English. Yeah. I'm doing it in English. Claude's good at translating Afrikaans now, but I don't know how well it will be when you chat to it, because it's first got to translate that and go backwards and forwards. But no, I mean, at the moment, the language of AI in the West is definitely English. They translate very well. I mean, they can speak other languages, make no mistake. And I haven't tested it out in Afrikaans. And I can tell you right now, that will just be getting better and better and better. So,
no, I accept that. The problem is that most of the documents that I have that I can upload to something like that is going to be in Afrikaans.
Yes, of course.
Uh, so, you know, that'll probably not work so well for me if I had to upload all the manuscripts. For instance, I mean, something that I would love to have that it's a manual process that I have to go through now. With the next book, I want to really focus a little bit more, for instance, on Benny Griesel's past.
Yes.
Now I have to go back to all the novels that I wrote about Benny Griesel to go find those little references to when maybe he said something about his father and mother and the jobs that they did. Maybe he said
Yes.
something about car. Maybe he said something about what life at school was in Paro for him. I have to do that manually.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, and AI could do
was,
that for you.
yeah, but the stuff is in Afrikaans, so that's
Well, we
it's
must
not
check
so.
it out because you could put that into a notebook LM, a Google's notebook LM, and then that's what that's for. And then you could say, go and find all the places where Griesel mentions this. And you should test it out in Afrikaans and see, just put one document up and see what it does. You know, so I want to ask you then, I had a thesis in one of my episodes where, as you know, these AIs are trained on vast amounts of data, right? Vast amounts of data, and it'll just get more and more and more, right? That in a sense, AI is becoming like Jung's collective unconscious or even the consciousness. Because when you as a writer or as an individual are talking to an AI, you are talking to a machine that has been developed on top of the entire content creation of humanity from the Greeks till now, you know, and is staying update. What do you think of that in terms of what this thing is becoming? In other words, I'm talking about going into the future. You know, think of what do you think might be the experience 5 years from now? And do you see it as some kind of repository? I understand that there's all sorts of questions of bias and who are the guys choosing the content. But, you know, eventually these things are going to just scrape everything that's there.
I think that's a wonderful thing. I think the more it can learn and the more it can understand the texture of being human, I think the better answers it would be able to give. That's one of the concerns that I have about AI at the moment. And it's something that I thought about last night and this morning, is that when you write something, it's from a perspective of human experience. Often when I talk to aspiring writers, I say, you know, the main thing is apply bottom to chair and sit and write. But the next thing is you also have to go out and live your life and experience all the feelings on the spectrum, from pain to joy and everything in between, because that's what you reference as an author when you sit down and you work with the characters' emotions and reactions, etc., etc. And I wonder. I started reading from a very young age, and I've been an intense reader for many, many years. And the only thing that I've gleaned from books in terms of human emotions and human feelings is the how of expressing them in books. But it hasn't really taught me what it really feels like to lose a parent, to
Yes.
feel the pain of rejection, that sort of thing. And I'm not sure that AI will ever be able to get there where it can mirror that pain that you feel, that joy, the elation that
Yes.
you feel. You know, I was thinking this morning, I remember, and the sad thing is, as you get older, this happens less and less, but I remember throughout my life reading books that set my brain on fire. You read something and it crackles in your head of how good this is, how fascinating this is, how interesting and stimulating it is. And it sets off a train of thought that, you know, it's like a runaway train and you can't get enough and you want to know more. AI will never experience that. AI just collects bits, and it's that emotion, it's that feeling, it's that intenseness of learning something new, of a new avenue of thought opening up, of an epiphany that I'm not sure that AI would ever be able to mirror.
Okay, you see, but
So,
no, sorry, carry on.
so getting story ideas, maybe in 2-3 years' time, if I ask AI to, you know, give me a great story idea for. Maybe I should go one step back. I've been doing a lot of collaborative writing in terms of screenplays, adaptations of my books, or original television series or movies. And the one thing that I've found with collaboration is that there's no such thing as a right or a wrong creative idea.
No.
There's just your idea and my idea. And the way that I think it works is that you get an idea. For every book that I've written so far, I've went and looked for story ideas. And when 2 or 3 ideas come together, there's this little spark that gets me excited. And I think, wow, this could work. And then you start thinking about a beginning, a middle, and an end that could work. And if you get that combination right, there's a certain passion that it sparks. You think, I want to write the story. This is the kind of story that I want to write. This is the story that I would have loved to read. The story ideas that AI gave me, there was not one that I thought, oh, that's something that I would like to write. Would it ever be able to understand that spark? And that's what makes writers unique. That's what makes all authors different from others, is that there are different story ideas that spark our imagination, that gets our passion going, our creative juices flowing. So AI can give me 1,000 ideas, and is there really going to be one that's going to spark?
You see, now that's an interesting point, because what you're talking about there actually is substitution. You're saying, can you give me an idea? I don't have an idea, give me an idea for a story. Whereas in that middle spectrum under augmentation, I personally approach AI from the point of view of, I have an idea. I want you to brainstorm with me. These are my preliminary ideas. This is how I want you to brainstorm with me about it. Now let's start. And that process, we're working on mine, because I come from the point of view that an AI might one day be able to fabricate a story. In fact, I don't doubt that it will be able to tell an entire novel, no problemo, right? But it will never be able to tell the story that I want to tell, because it does not see the world through my eyes. It hasn't lived the millions of seconds of my life. So this is the story I want to tell. So I'm not talking about, so when we say things like, will an AI ever be able to understand what it means to be human? Well, I don't think so, but I don't think it wants to, or that's the purpose. I don't think it even wants anything. It doesn't have a will. Okay. Right. So it's just that. So that's not the question. The question is, can an AI help me? Because it's got a vast a repository of psychological, informational, emotional, access to story and so forth. Help me unpack my humanity better. Can it help me unpack the humanity of my character better through the kinds of questions it asks me about the character? So for instance, all my prompts are actually result in the AI asking me endless amounts of questions, which I have to try and answer. And as I answer them, I go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I go, God, I'm getting exhausted now. But you go deeper and deeper and deeper, because it keeps asking, and it stays on that topic and says, okay, but if that's the case, then why this, why that? And it causes me to go deeper and deeper down, almost like a very gifted editor.
Okay.
Yeah? Really challenging my understanding of my story that I thought up, right? So that's why I'm not a substitutionist. I define myself as an augmentor. I'm trying to work out how to get the AI to amplify my writing process.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. I don't believe, if you want to get it to write its own stuff, I don't care about that. I want to tell my stories, but I want to tell them better. I want to tell them, and we can discuss what better is about. Think more deeply, more efficiently, what all that stuff. You understand? So that's where I'm coming from on this thing.
No, that sounds sensible to me. That sounds like it's something that you can really use. Research. One great part of doing research for a novel is that it multiplies your creative choices.
Exactly.
When you don't do research, you have 1 or 2 choices and that you are aware of. Yeah. But the more research you do, the more creative choices you have in terms of which direction the story can go, which twists and turns you can build into. So I would always be looking for something that'll multiply my creative choices.
That's right. Yeah.
And I would very much like to try that. So are you recommending Google Gemini? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if you want to do research, For research,
Right.
I would definitely recommend that you give the Gemini Advanced, and you go and look at the deep research. It's actually called the deep research. You can go look at a YouTube video on it. There's so many YouTube videos on how to use it, and then you go check it out, and you'll see it is. I tried it out when it came out recently. I thought, oh well, let me go and give this a shot, because I actually use Anthropic's Claude, and I use Perplexity for my search engine. But I thought, let me go and check this out, because I mean, this does look interesting, and there's a lot of people talking about it, and so I went and tried it out, and man, it really was like, oh, okay. And you must remember that when it's delivered the report, you can say to it, go and do that again, but now give me more emphasis on. And you can have this constant dialogue on it, you understand? So, yeah, and it's very powerful stuff. So I thought, okay, no, I have to. So I subscribed. I've got to have this.
You don't find it a distraction. You don't find it a rabbit hole that you go down and it gets so mesmerizing and interesting that you actually forget to get some pages done.
No, but you see, that's the thing. Because first of all, when it comes to research, as you said, that increases your options. And there comes a point where you say, okay, that's enough of that. I don't need to know more about that for now. There it is. When I'm brainstorming and developing the beginning, middle, and end of a new series I'm busy developing at the moment, right? A 6-part series. And to that, I'm now trying to develop this moment in the story. And that's what we focused on. And when we finally have backwards and forwards, then I've said, but what, and answered questions, and it's compact. And I finally am happy with what I've written here, right? And that it's critiqued for me and then questioned and try to poke holes in and so forth. And it's given ideas and added. And I finally got this. Here's the beat. Here is the beat. I paste that into my Google Sheet and say, that beat is done. Next beat, boom. You know what I mean? And there it goes. So no, I get more done. Because I don't get stuck. And of course, as it asks question, you suddenly realize, as you said about this, it's like research. Because what happens then? It asks a question that you realize, oh, that might not be pertinent now, but it is pertinent for that other scene that I had in mind. So you're going to make a note over there about that. You understand? Yeah. Yeah, it's a very potent brainstorm team.
Right.
I want to ask you this quickly before our time runs out. What do you see the difference between brainstorming with an AI and brainstorming, as you said, when you collaborate and you brainstorm a story with other human writers? What actually is the difference? Throwing out ideas. You know how it goes. You throw out ideas and most of them are rubbish, but sooner or later someone goes, oh, that one, yes, that's cool. Yeah?
Yeah, I think the big difference is that I find that brainstorming with other human beings is often, it ends up being creativity by committee, where if most people around the table support an idea, then you sort of go with that. And I really hate that. I find it extremely hard because, the majority isn't always right. Being a novelist, worked on my own all these years, you have to believe in your own ideas. You have to believe that your creative choices are the right ones for you, not for other people. I mean, everybody's creative choices work for them. I find it incredibly hard to work in creative teams and in writing teams, probably because I was in advertising where I was part of creative brainstorming, but that's very different because it's a very short little thing. Writing a novel or creating, as you know, a TV series or a movie, every creative decision that you make has consequences. Yes. And you have to deal with those consequences somewhere down the line. And we all think different of these consequences. I tend to really try and extrapolate them as far ahead as possible to see what influence they will have on every act of the story. So, and probably with AI, that'll be very different because you are not bound by the pressure of the group to go with a specific one. Yeah. Sometimes because people feel, well, let's just get on with it. Yeah. So I think that's a major difference, and I think that's that's one for AI. I
agree. I've had many writing teams where we've had to brainstorm, and I have to tell you, I've said to my wife now, in the future, if I ever had to have a show that required a brainstorm team of writers, what I would do is I would get one other person, not a team of people. And the only reason I get this one other person, it'll be me, the other person, and the AI. And the only reason I would do that is because it's lonely. And I want someone else to chat and laugh with, you know what I mean? Yeah. As you said, you get to meet some other people, It's like playing doubles versus playing singles, you know what I mean? At least there's someone else to talk to.
John, one last question. Have you tried image generation, AI image
Yeah,
generation,
yeah, I've
video?
used it a lot. Yeah, yeah.
What do you use it for?
For what? Well, I've published children's books and used it to generate the images for that.
Okay.
Yeah. The logo on this, the thumbnail logo on my YouTube Digital Quill Writer channel is generated by AI. It's like you need an image, got an image. I've generated many images to illustrate what I'm talking about in my Digital Quill YouTube videos. And then there's no copyright issues and so forth because it's been generated afresh, you know? And that's another whole, our time's running out, but that's another whole conversation, the IP thing and all that. But I've given my opinion on that in you. But nevertheless, yeah. So yes, I've used that. I love technology like you do. And I believe one should stay abreast with it and learn with it as you go. But my position is, it is how do I harness AI to augment me? That's the relationship here. How do I harness it to augment me? And I've been working on that a lot, and I must say I'm having great success with that.
We must spend some time together so that you can show me the ropes,
I'll show you.
because I'm always fascinated by
That's
any
wonderful.
potential. Thank you, Deon. It's been
Well,
a
thank
real
you so
pleasure.
much for the chat. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that you saying yes.
The pleasure is all mine. Have a good
Thanks.
one.
Ciao, Deon. Bye.